headline for this week: the UN leaders have agreed to a 7-year commitment to implement a unified global agenda. There's a commitment to a 7-year plan for the global agenda. So we know that agendas usually lead to whatever it is they're trying to accomplish. Before the Constitution of the United States became the Constitution, there was first an agenda. Before the Europeans the left Britain, before they enacted the plan to do so and had the war, there was an agenda. Before the European Union became the European Union, there was an agenda. Before the one world government becomes the one world government, there's an agenda. We don't have to speculate. It's already here. They're telling us that they are committed to the one world government because they have an agenda. Let's continue with the article. This slide is telling us the global leaders recently gathered at the United Nations for the 2023 SDG Summit. They committed to fully implementing the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, over the next 7 years. These SDGs cover various aspects of human activity and represent a blueprint for global governance. The government aimed to rally leaders to take significant actions to achieve these goals within the designated time frame. So now they have 17 SDGs, 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and they are committed to achieving this goal for global governance. Now, what they're not discussing right now is who's going to run. Now, right now, with the United Nations, they have someone that leads that, and it's chosen from different nations. They take their turns. They have a term. And here, right now, India is that country. So they rotate. Now, will it continue that way? I don't know. What I do know is at some point, once all of this is enacted and we're fully into this global one world government system, at one point, whoever is at the head is going to decide, I am him. And I'm about to make some changes because I have the whole world at my disposal. There is no more army of the European Union or the army of Iraq or Russia or the United States or Canada, because we are all globally unified. We have commitments. We have surrendered anything that we had that separate us from the world. We have surrendered all authority to this global government system. That's what's happening. The 17 SDGs. Let's take a look at them so you know what they are. The 17 SDGs. There are 17 targets to be achieved by 2030, broken down into 5 categories. Now, as you look at these 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, here are the 5 categories. The 5 categories are finance, technology, capacity building, trade, and systemic issues. To go along with these 17 SDGs and into these 5 categories, we have also 5 pillars, and they are people, prosperity, planet, peace, and partnership. So the pillars. See, the pillars is what's going to, they're going to touch our heartstrings, right? Because well, they care for the people, and they're going to eliminate, the hunger, and there's going to be prosperity for all, and there's going to be peace, and there's going to be a partnership, so we're not fighting amongst each other, and that's all great until it isn't. And again, not everyone is going to be a part of this system. We know this because, as I said earlier in a lesson, Daniel 11, it tells us that Jordan will not be a part of it. We know the United States, some kind of way, something happens with the United States, because the United States is that eagle that protects Israel for 3.5 years in her place. She will be protected in her place for 3.5 years from the face of the Antichrist. Israel and the United States has probably the tightest bond in global existence right now. Everyone else is flip-flopping. I don't like you this week. But Israel and the United States, no matter what president comes in, right, they're still here. Now, it may be a little shaky, but you let Israel go to war and not expect the United States to follow, that's not happening. You're looking at China and Taiwan. If Taiwan goes to war, China's expecting the United States, but you let something kick off in the Middle East, that's priority number one with Israel. Okay, that's how tight that is. So don't be fooled. Just pay attention. Watch. Look at what's going on. Look at the details. Look at the details and line them up with the Word of God. Look at the details and line them up with the Word of God. Let's continue with the story. This slide, they're calling it a new phase of accelerated progress. This information is from the official UN webpage about the summit. In short, it states, the 2023 SDG Summit in New York was a pivotal moment in the journey toward the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. It aimed to provide political guidance and accelerate progress. This commitment reflects the determination to achieve these goals by September of 2030. There's a commitment. They want to accelerate. It's a 7-year plan. The commitment is going to come next September. The hard commitment by everyone. Biden will still be in office before the chance of a Republican coming into office and just severing whatever is going on right now with the Biden administration. So there's a 10-page declaration. A 10-page declaration. Let's take a look and see what this 10-page declaration is all about. Now, this 10-page declaration, the world leaders at the SDG Summit of 2023, they adopted a significant political declaration reaffirming their commitment to end poverty, combat inequalities, and build peaceful societies. This declaration is crucial as global crises like conflicts, climate impacts, and the pandemic threaten the achievement of the SDGs by 2030. So they sound real good because they're going to eliminate a lot of the things that we are bothered by, that we are impacted by, the climate conflicts, hunger, peace, inequalities. Nobody wants inequalities. Hey, man, let's go. Let's make it happen. Pulling on your heartstrings. That's what's going on. Pulling on the heartstrings. But we have to understand where it leads to. Where it leads to. Because we can do the same thing here in the United States. We can do the same thing. We're sending billions upon billions of dollars across the world, helping these people, helping with their crisis. We have crisis, but we don't have enough voices. Where are the voices? We don't have enough voices. How many are actually going to the right there in your little city? Who's going to the city council meetings? Who's going to the city council meetings, or going to see when the government, your local governments, when they have these rallies, and they come in and have these when they come together into the rooms, and they talk, the forums that they have where you can ask questions and you can give your opinions and hold them to the fire. Do you show up for that? Because that's all we need to do. That's all we need to do. The town halls that go on in your community, are you a part of that? You can't complain about anything if you're not part of the town halls, if you're not getting involved, because we can do what the global government system is trying to do with the international community. What they're trying to do, we can do that right here. We can do it at the town halls. They have meetings every week, they have them every month, every quarter, whatever the frequency is, you can make it happen with your voice. But we're not ready for that because we just want to be content in our own little space at your address, wherever that may be. Goes on to say, looking at page 5 of the document highlights the urgent need to reverse declines and speed up progress to achieve the 2030 agenda and implement the SDGs. This slide. Global leaders are committed to their climate goals, which may have consequences for everyone. The document also mentions a summit of the future in 2024 on its 10th page. Now, here's page 10. It simply says, we are eager for the 2024 summit of the future to help speed up the implementation of the 2030 agenda and its SDGs. Now, it may have consequences for everyone, but we don't care because we think that the priority should be the climate for us to get these SDGs. Yeah, it may be some consequences, but they don't outweigh what we envision: a brighter future for inequalities and poverty and the people and economics and everything, conflicts. Well, we all know how that usually plays out because you have to weigh everything. But when you get blinded over here and your focus is over here, you don't see this because it's out here. It's out your peripheral. You don't see it because your focus is over here. But again, you don't know what's going on because you're not involved. You're not getting along, and you don't read the word of God. You're not reading to see what's happening, the directions. He's given us everything we need to know. But we're not ready to move with the Lord. We're not ready to move with the Lord. Let's talk about the pact for the future. This story goes on talking about the pact for the future. This slide. This crucial meeting will occur just 2 months before the next US presidential election. During this event, UN member states plan to adopt something called a pact for the future. The United Nations openly states that the Summit of the Future aims to establish a stronger international response plan for global shocks, utilizing the Secretary General's ability to convene through an emergency platform. Now, COVID-19, for those that remember, not COVID-19, but for those that remember the WHO, the World Health Organization, they were trying to flex their might onto the international community, onto the United States, because they wanted everyone to follow their guidelines. The United States pushed back, but it seems like the United States is maybe they're tired of pushing back because now they're all in. And the WHO, the World Health Organization, by the way, is a part of the United Nations because the United Nations is the one who is running everything and all their arms reaching out, the UN. So the next time this happens, the global shock, the Secretary General, whatever he says, that's gospel. That's what's going to happen. Let's continue with the story. This slide here, the Summit of the Future. This pact for the future simply states recent global shocks like the pandemic and conflicts have tested international institutions. The Summit of the Future is a rare chance to improve cooperation, reaffirm commitments to the SDGs and UN Charter, the strength to and strengthen the multilateral system to address current and future challenges. Essentially, if there is any sort of a major global shock, the United Nations will be given authority to ensure there is a unified global response to the crisis. Global response. I don't need to say anything else. This is the agenda. This is what they're moving to. Global shock. And they can make it whatever they want it to be. Whatever, hey, that's a global shock. Oh, yep, that's global shock. Global shock. I have all authority. And it's done. Doesn't matter what we're doing over here or what the Canadians are doing or what the Asians are doing over in Japan, or what they're doing over in South Africa. It doesn't matter because what we have to do, we got to get on the phone. We got to send telegraphs or however they communicate. And we need to, hey, let's wait for directions. Let's see what they say, because we have a blueprint that we have to follow. That's what we're going to. Let's continue. This proposal could allow the United Nations to use almost any crisis to activate an emergency platform. Once activated, the UN officials could extend their emergency powers indefinitely. Many find this proposal very concerning as it could grant the UN extensive global emergency powers. The simplest way for me to put this is the United States coming from the Biden administration. We are ready to surrender our sovereignty. Are you ready to surrender your sovereignty to someone who they don't have a foot in this race that we've been living here in the United States since the inception? Someone who's never probably been here, someone who doesn't understand the struggles, doesn't understand the needs, the desires, the history, your vision, which should be just as important. They're going to make the decision because we're giving up our sovereignty to an international community of people. It's just like when someone is at the Pentagon, at the Senate, the Congress, making decisions about the service members. But you don't even have a nephew, a son, daughter, a niece, or uncle, or anyone that's ever served. But yet you're the expert to make the decisions that the service members have to adhere to in time of crisis or just in garrison where there's nothing going on. You're making those decisions. But you've never lived that life. You don't personally have anyone in your immediate family that's ever went through that cycle of training and have been separated from your families and voluntarily have given all they have for the Constitution of the United States. But you're making decisions and we accept that. Well, I guess we're used to it because we are ready to give our sovereignty up to who knows who so they can make decisions for us. Let's continue. The Biden administration supports this plan, and the U.S. is set to adopt the Pact for the Future next September. They're moving quickly because Biden's presidency allows them to advance their agenda more easily. Time is crucial, and it's unfortunate that many Americans aren't aware of these globalist efforts due to limited media coverage. These are challenging times, and those seeking to undermine our freedoms are persistent. The end times are not coming. The end times are here. The Bible is our guide.